Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video, and now it is time to take on Normal Battle 3 of Heroes Jubilee number 35. And this stage is kind of interesting because the mushroom doesn't have guard. It's not a stacking stage like Normal Battle 3s typically are. It's a 3-turn event, right? That's what you get for max scores, turn 3. And while it is definitely possible, you do need very specific units to make it work. So this team is going to be a stopgap for a lot of people. Obviously, I don't have max score in the stage. I don't know if there is even a way to do it, quite honestly, while still having all the damage you need to get the 1.4 million. He just has a butt ton of HP, though. 164k is a lot higher than what like the centipedes and things normally have for normal battles that have the defense and guard. So he got Pierce and physical attack resistance, so you definitely do want to use a magic-focused team here. And thankfully we did get a very good magic unit with the Overlord collab, so we will definitely be using Shizu for the first team. But disclaimers out of the way. Number one, your results may vary. This stage especially, will be very divisive between people who have and people who do not have, so please use this video as a guide more than anything and tailor your teams based on your own box. I'm just here to show you how the stage is meant to be worked. Disclaimer number 2 is that these are the units I use for protection gauge turn 1. It's very, very helpful for the stage. And then disclaimer number 3 is please don't forget to go optimize your wind magic build, or your wind building in town to get the most out of your wind nuker. But let's go ahead and jump in. Alright, this is the team that we are using for the first stage, where I get my highest score. So, Protector Rimuru from the Konosuba collab is buffing alt gauge, or alt damage, permanently. We have Wind Trainee, who's doing a few things here. 1, she has protection gauge for the first 3 turns, which is great. 2, she's our turn 1 orb changer, because that's what we need for the stage, is a special convert for blues. And 3, and technically 4, is that she is able to rush alt gauge for her highest attacking unit and give them a small wind damage buff, which we're going to be nuking with EX Overlord Shizu, who needs alt gauge and can use some wind attack. So trainee, very important here. Visions of Coleus Rimuru, also fairly important, giving us the rainbow orbs so we can very much cycle and get as many stacks of Rimuru and the EX alt for Shizu. Violet giving the magic buff, Shizu's giving her own buff as well, and then the hero for the rewind, because we're definitely going to need that to maximize our stacks. So let's go ahead and take off. Alright, so like I said, this team is going to be very, very specific. Like, you gotta have these units to do it, which is kind of unfortunate, but that's generally how Jubilees work anyways. So, turn 1, we're getting the extra protection gauge from training already, so that's awesome. We'll use her orb change turn 1 because it's cheaper than Violet's, and Violet's is much more usable and friendly. And then we'll bring the hero in and Shizu in. And since we're not getting that extra 6% damage buff, he's got a lot of HP, so we do need to weaken him quite a bit before we're ready to fully on nuke. So we are sending full-on unit attacks here. They all have gear. Shizu will be last because, that didn't take off too much HP. Kind of an unfortunate hand here, technically, because we only have one Shizu orb. We will do the double stack of Rimuru, though, so that's permanent alt damage right there by 20% every single time. And then we can bring Violet in for the hero after we use the rewind. And then next turn, we're just going to have to kind of pray that we get good orb RNG for Shizu. And we have a lot of points here, so next turn we will also be able to use the alt rush ability from Trainee and put that on Shizu as well, which will just help us out and get more alt gauge. But really banking on this rewind turn to give us blues and Shizu orbs, which thankfully it pretty much does. So we get one more stack of Rimuru, so that's now 60% alt damage, and now we can bring in we can do a few things. So we can bring in Rimuru for Violet, since we've already used her alt buff, or her orb change. We can use the orb change for Trainee, which will hit one of those oranges, which thankfully hits the Shizu orb, more importantly than anything. And then we'll bring Coleus Rimuru in to change that, and then Rainbow. And then we don't need to use that at all. But now we have a full hand of rainbows, thankfully, because that trainee orb change hit the Shizu orb and not that other orb. But we're looking pretty good. That's a double stack of Rimuru again. That should be the EX ult for Shizu. And we are ready to nuke with as much points as physically possible. 220 right there. So this run went very, very well. It did take a few tries to get this, though, because of that really big RNG on turn 2 and the rewind. But it does work out in the end. So the hero comes in for Coleus Rimuru because he has no buff. We already have the wind buff on from trainee because it lasts for 2 turns, so we'll do the crit, the magic buff, and then the weakness and alt resistance down from Shizu. And then we'll send 2 orbs just to lower him a little bit more. Could have done maybe something else, but we do 1.4 million on that nuke in 3 turns, which is very impressive. So there we go. There is my highest score for normal 3, 1.5 million damage with 2,900 damage taken. Kind of unfortunate, but, you know, if you have dupes or something, I guess you'll take less damage. So, I guess if you've got better dupes than me, then sure. But there we go. There's my first team. Alright, the next team is going to be the Fount of Wisdom team with a few substitutions. So, Diablo is still one of the only protectors giving extra damage against water, the other one being Vengeance Velzard, who is not going to be useful here. So, another stacking protector, he's stacking alt resistance down. We have Hinata, who's going to be our nuker and our turn 1 orb changer, because she does have that special convert. And then we have Guy for the other orb change. We have Fount of Wisdom Rimuru for the physical buff. We have Blanc for her power. And then I brought Wind Shizu. Don't bring Wind Shizu. She did literally nothing for us this entire time. It's very difficult to get a few stacks of her attack buff on Hinata because now we have the extra 6% damage buff, and now Hinata does too much damage. So we can't be willy-nilly stacking 15%ers from Shizu on Hinata, otherwise you're just going to kill way too early. So bring somebody else. Bring another orb changer, bring Wind Trainee or something like that, bring another buffer, I don't know, but don't bring Shizu. She didn't do jack crap for me. So let's go ahead and figure out where I need to start this video up. Alright, found it. So, turn 1, looks like I start with Shizu up front this time. Again, not a big deal, don't bring her. Fount of Wisdom Reaver needs to go to the back. But we bring Hinata up front turn 1. No one has attack gear on, because pretty much everyone is Fount of Wisdom. They do that extra 60% damage buff. So Hinata goes first, and everyone else goes last. Fount of Wisdom Rimuru does peanuts for damage because he's physical. Thank God. Because they want you to use a magic team here. But, you know, if you don't have Shizu, the single target magic dealers are going to be kind of limited. Unless you, for some reason, have Furry Shuna. So Guy will come in. We'll do the double stack of Diablo, who is, again, stacking alt resistance down. But he's only raising our skill cap by 30 points every single time, which really hampers him. And it really does show how old he is being the first EX protector. They weren't quite sure how they wanted to do it yet. So they kind of nerfed him a little bit, which is unfortunate, because it does hold him back, and it does make using a bunch of big-time buffs very difficult in today's meta. So here, fairly lucky. So we have Guy, and we have Rimuru, who's going to take care of all these orbs. We also have, technically, Hinata, who can use it too. We also have Blanc, who's going to alt-swap that away, so just making sure the orbs are what we need them to be. So yeah, Rimuru orb change, Guy orb change, and then we'll bring Blanc in, I would think for Rimuru, but I could be mistaken. Okay, well, no, we took him out for Guy. Alright, so alt swap here. Boom, and then we'll send, again, Fount of Wisdom Rimuru last, because he's going to do the least amount of damage. Because, you know, we are doing quite a bit. We are doing quite a bit here. Now, obviously, we're already on turn 3, which means that we're not going to get the max turn bonus. But we need, I'm trying to get that 1.4 million damage, and it does take us a few more turns to get to that point with this team. So, and it does take us a few more points to get it here for the EX ult, even though I am running the alt gauge on for the highest attacking unit charm. So, this hand, along with everything else, should work out just fine. We'll use the Hinata orb change, we'll bring Guy back in. You see that we still have not touched Shizu at all. she's Wind, she's going to do extra damage, and I don't really need that. So again, Hinata last, and it's not quite enough to give us that ult, which is really unfortunate, but it does at least give us one more turn to use Diablo's stacks. So next turn, well, this turn technically we're going to get it. That counterattack actually kind of unfortunate, because I actually didn't want that, because I was too afraid of us doing too much damage on this turn that we would just straight up kill. But there is the attack buff for Hinata. Because we used Diablo, he's got that ult gauge for the highest attacker. It covered that last little bit that we needed. So now we're going to swap Hinata out once she has her attack buff. And then we're going to send both of our backline units in so we don't kill here. And we have Guy, who is able to take care of this entire hand of blues. Or, well, what's coming up and going to be an entire hand of blues. And then we'll have enough points to use the 3 other big-time buffs, being the alt buff from Guy, the weakness strike from Blanc, and the physical buff from Rimuru. And that will get us the 1.4 million. So there we go. Not too much damage from Guy, and thankfully we have a bunch of Shizu orbs to bring in. I mean, if you had a Blanc orb, I mean, actually, well, no, if you could have brought, I could have brought Guy in, Hearn for Guy, because no, because we wanted the crit. Never mind. So yeah, Shizu. Shizu it is. Get out of here. There we go. So the 3 big time buffs. No stacks of Shizu, unfortunately, but now we get one more stack of Diablo. Turn 6, and we nuke for 1.5. So definitely an older team, but it still gets us the the damage cap, just not the turn bonus, and definitely not the damage bonus. Alright, next we're going very old. The Wind 2.0 team with Diablo and Protector Hakerou. One of my least favorite teams ever to release, just because of the way it was built. But Diablo is magic, is a single target nuker, and this team does have a reasonable amount of buffs. So Hakerou is giving our highest attacking unit extra magic damage. Trainee is giving our highest attacking unit extra wind damage. Diablo has his own buffs. Windmill is skill fused, so she gives the ult damage plus the 30% crit damage for wind allies. Honestly, like, if you have it, great. If you don't, then just deal with it. Just use the 70% ult damage and and have fun. Geld is here to give all the orbs to Diablo, and then Dino is here for his debuffs, which he is also not skill fused, so don't really need to worry about anyone but Windmill, but even then, it's like it's not too much of a factor. So Trainee will take care of our turn 1 orb change. She's giving us extra protection gauge for the first 3 turns, which is great, so we will definitely leave her in. And now that we're not getting that extra 6% damage buff, everyone has gear on, because we need to do as much damage as possible. So Dino, Trainee, Diablo goes last for his, big time buff. Boom, boom, boom. Excellent. We're off. Spoiler alert: we don't hit 1.4 million with this team, because this team wasn't teams were incapable of hitting that high back when this team originally came out. Just straight up incapable. But the good thing here is that we have enough points to use a number of things that last for a couple of turns. So the wind buff lasts 2 turns from Trainee. The debuffs from Dino last 2 turns. Diablo's attack buff lasts for 3 turns. And then Hakerou is going to give us a magic buff for 1 turn, but also change these greens into blues, and that allows us to cycle very well. And also giving us 15 skill points, so So we use them twice, because we have them twice, so that's an extra 30 points that we get right there. And that just allows us to build up points a little bit better here. And I believe the charm I have on is skill points on blue. That way I have enough points to actually use everything here. So we'll go ahead and do that. Yeah, so we're capped out. We have another Hakerou, so that's 115 points next turn. So, but we're going to cap out anyways, so we're going to use the magic resistance down debuff, or do we use the crit buff? I can't remember. Alright, we use the magic debuff. So now we're going to go ahead and send this, and we get 69 points, so 77 plus another 15. That will allow us to use the crit buff and the alt buff from Millum. So turn 3, which is great. It's just we're not going to get the damage. But still, it works out just fine. So there's the crit. And then we have 52. But remember that Gabiru gives us 15, so that will be enough to use the alt buff for Milim, who's now going to give us that extra crit damage, now that we have the crit activated for Diablo. And then we'll go ahead and send a few orbs just to lower him. He's got 39,000 HP, so we can probably get away with a few orbs here. Maybe not a Diablo orb, but certainly these two, yeah. And then we'll go ahead and nuke. And Diablo does 242, which honestly, you know, for how old and bad of a team it is, it's not that terrible. So almost 400k. Definitely in turn 3 though. Took some damage, but already it's kind of a sad substitute team. So if you got it, try it out. And finally, we have a positively horrendous, sad team with, again, Space Guy, who, you know, it gives us alt gauge, and we're going to be nuking with Old Man Wind Hakerou, because he is a single target wind attack unit. Again, brought the hero and Wind Milim. Warrior's Mind Xion again makes an appearance for that extra crit damage, and then we have the free-to-play Summer Ramirez, who's going to take care of our turn 1 orb change in the event that you don't have Trainee or Hinata or something, or, you know, Guy or Violet. So this team, very sad, very sad, but it's a bunch of old units, and it's what you got, right? Okay. So turn 1, orb change with Ramirez and send her away. Everyone has gear on here. We'll definitely make use of the rewind as well. But we have no EX alts to get, so we don't really need that much. So between this and the orbs and Guy's 35% that we're going to give next turn, Hakerou will get his ult very quickly. Unless you just get absolutely unlucky and get no Hakerou orbs, which can also definitely happen. But we get 2, so it works out fine. So we have 58 points. We can use the rewind. We can use the stack of crit damage. It's only 5%, but hey, extra help is extra help, right? So go ahead and use that. Guy will then orb change all of these to greens, and that allows us to then do it again next turn, just to lower his health even further down. We'll get Hakerou's ult here, and then we'll just kind of keep moving forward. And the hero buff is 55 points. The Hakerou buff, don't use it, because it's just a worse hero buff. And then we just need to make sure that we can get the Wind Milim buff. So here, because we have the ult and we have enough points, we're going to use the crit buff for the hero now, and then send Hakerou away, so that next turn, when we send a full hand of green again, we have enough points to use the Wind Milim buff now. So, and then we'll get Hakerou out of here. So boom, another full hand of greens. That will ensure us that we get the 55 points required. And we'll go ahead and send Milim last. And boom, 92 points, perfect, just enough. We can actually probably use... no, we don't have enough, actually. I would say maybe we have enough to use a double stack, or another stack of Xion, but that would need 100. So, unfortunate, but it is what it is. So, Hakerou comes in for either Ramirez or Xion, doesn't really matter. Ramirez, actually, because we're going to need some ults here. So, there's the wind buff plus the wind crit damage. So, Guy will change all that. The AoE debuff means nothing here, realistically, to Hakerou. But we're going to send everything, because he still has a lot of HP left, and then Hakerou by himself would not kill. So, 26k with Milim, 16k with Xion, and then the follow-up orbs. And then the final hit will be the Hakerou ult, and he does a magical 52,000 damage. So congratulations. If you have to use this team, I'm very, very sorry. But on the plus side, it does get you an S rank. So, yay! But, you know, that's normal Battle 3. That does it for the normal battles for Jubilee 35. Again, please let me know if these videos helped you out. But that's it for me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.